Good afternoon to you all, wherever you may be watching us from, and welcome to Pertinent Questions. It's been a little while that we came your way physically, and sometimes you are here, sometimes you are there. Today, it is a privilege to be here physically and to bring to you another edition, fresh edition, I should say, of your favorite program, Pertinent Questions. On Pertinent Question today, we want to take a discussion, or rather want to take and at the same time discuss census issues. Somebody is in the studio who will tell us, because he's a professional who has just retired, and his retirement from the organization has been just about 7 months. The last time this country had census was about 19 years ago. It looks so recent, but then it's been 19 years. It was in 2006. In the tail months and perhaps even years of the last administration, there were efforts to conduct a census. The government kept on fixing the date, pushing it forward, recalibrating it, and then eventually it said the next administration that was to come then would have to do it. That administration has been in for a little over 2 years now. Yes, it's been more than 2 years since the Tinubu administration got into the saddle, yet the signs are not there that census could be held. That's why our topic is asking, census, can it hold? In the studio with me is somebody who has been part of the system until about 7 months ago, when he formally retired from the service as the Osun State Director of National Population Commission. I speak of the man who is today retired, but who for 35 years or so was with the National Population Commission. Welcome to Pertinent, Reverend Benga Mbo. Yes, you may be retired, but you are not tired. You retired just about 7 months ago, January to be precise.
Yes.
And so you still have something to offer us as far as the census is concerned. Let me allow you to just give us a very brief definition. When we talk about census, what do we mean?
Well, for the understanding of the majority of the listeners, we simply define census as the enumeration of people and housing units in a geographical area. That is just the simple definition that can be understandable to
people and
yes,
what?
People and housing units. That's why we call it census and people and housing census.
Okay. Oh, so that's what you normally call it. We just know census.
Yes.
People and housing census. Very, very formally at the international level, maybe United Nations or whatever, which body, is there any given period that the census should be held?
Yeah. The normal practice, generally acceptable time lag, when the census we hold after another should be 10 years.
Okay.
Normally, should be 10 years.
What informed that?
Well, it is believed that the exiting of people from Earth and the arrival of the young ones should be taken care of in such a way that those who are exiting the Earth will be subtracted from the existing figures, while those who are being born will be added. And it is believed that 10 years is a reasonable period for any government to rejig and to also look at the growth rate, death rate, birth rate, and looking at economic parameters that really determine the standard of living of the generality of the people. So that is, I think, the reason for having it at 10 years interval.
Okay. Let me ask you this question too. What is the significance of census? Call it the way you have told us, people and housing census. What is the significance?
Yes, the significance has to be taken to the lowest ebb of human existence. Let's look at a family setting, for instance. If a father who has a wife or 2, 3, 4 wives, as it is being acceptable in some climes, and having about multiple of children, if that father does not know the number of people, probably even outside the biological children and the legal wives, there are others who are dependents, probably cousins or even servants or house helps, as we call them. If the head of the family doesn't know the number of people under the roof that will be taken care of, that will be catered for, it will be pretty difficult for that head of household to plan and to know whether the disposable income or the available income can be able to cater for the number of people that are under one's roof. So we're taking it to a global level now, or national level if you like, government should be able to know the number of people in the country. When government knows the number of people in the country, they will be able to know the age group. For instance, if the majority of the people are in the 0 to 20 age bracket, for instance, having about 80% of the people within that age bracket, it will be pretty easy for the government to know that those to be taken care of or to cater for are those within that age bracket who will need job, who will need a peculiar health care, who will also be need orientation into adulthood. So these are some of the things that and if on the other hand, the majority is at the upper age bracket from say 60 and above, the government should be able to prepare for health care, how to ensure that the aged do not suffer unnecessarily. And it will also let the government know the productive proportion of the population. So like the first one I cited, if they are in the youth bracket, the majority, the government will know that the future is bright for the country because people are in the majority of the people are in the productive age bracket. Whereas if the other side is the case, then the government will know that it is taking care of the aged more than the youth. And that will call for a lot of importation of food items because the youth age bracket cannot sustain the majority of the people who are aged. So that will call for importation of food, and that will create a balance of trade deficit because when the people at the productive age is less than or are less than the number, it means the majority are the consuming population, whereas the little or less people in that country are producing. So it has a lot of economic implications on the government.
Right. The last time we had a census in our country was 19 years ago.
Yes, 2006 precisely. Yeah.
Before that time, we had spent another 15 years not holding census, because the last
was
census
1991. Yeah.
States had been created, and we didn't know why it had to, and couldn't push it into 1992. 15 years, 19 years. Even we are still counting.
Yeah.
We don't know when we will hold it. We will come to that.
Yeah.
You give us an insight. To what extent is this dangerous?
Well, it has also reflected in the earlier illustration. It is dangerous because government will base budget on mere conjecture or mere speculation. Well, there is time to time population projection, but that projection cannot be said to be accurate. For instance, they claim that the growth rate in Nigeria is 3.5, but how did they arrive at that? I know that there are also surveys and other pre-census or census-related activities in between. But actually, this cannot be said to be dependable. If we have stuck to the 10-year interval that the UN recommended for census taking, it will be reliable and it will be dependable, and nobody will be able to fault anything that the government is doing. So having census at regular basis will ensure adequate planning, will ensure adequate projection, will also ensure high standard of living for the populace. For instance, look at the vices that are happening all over the country, kidnapping, banditry, and all the rest. If censuses have been observed as and when due, it would have even reduced the rate at which all these things are happening, because everybody will feel belonged, everybody will know that something is happening. So not holding census has very grave implication upon the country. And this, the better the federal government knows this, the better. I mean, the earlier the government knows this, the better. Definitely, a lot of confusion will be coming up from time to time, just because what government needs to do. For instance, people are crying of lack of employment opportunity. If youths are being engaged from time to time in census activities, it will also create some job and hope, and some dependable sources of income for people. But when there is a law in that aspect of national life, you will discover that it has very negative consequences upon the country.
What are the things, call them events, call them practices or whatever, what are they supposed to be before census actually takes place? Because I'm asking this question because you are a field man. What is a nation supposed to go through first and foremost?
Well, for the reason the UN said 10 years, it's not because within one census and the other, there will be the staffers of the National Population Commission or anybody that is saddled with the responsibility will go and sleep. No, Immediately census ends, there is what we call data analysis. Data analysis takes place when people bring the raw figures from the field. We analyze to know the productive age, like I said, the dependable age, and whether the kind of health requirements for the population groups within the country, and also the productive age, which is most important to the nation, will be known. And after this data analysis, it will now be released in such a way that government will make use of the various components of census to plan their programs and their every policy that government is embarking upon must be premised on the discoveries from periodic censuses. So if government says it is planning, rolling out budgets year in, year out, without making reference to what census body has rolled out as their discoveries over time, it will be difficult for that government to plan effectively. Now, after that has been finished or completed, the next stage is to start planning for another census. So between the time the census finishes, the census exercise is completed, and probably about 3-4 years after the census has been completed, or the census taking has been completed, we should be able to complete all the other after census activities that will make the data useful both locally and internationally. So immediately that is done, and the UN, which is an umbrella body for the entire wide world, attests it to be dependable and acceptable, apart from the satisfaction that would have been sold to the local populace by reason of the way things were conducted satisfactorily. The UN, as the umbrella body, who is also a stakeholder in census taking, must be able to adjudge the census as being free and fair. So after that, once the figures have been accepted and the figures adaptable to profitable and concrete use, then we start planning for another one. We talk of the demarcation exercise, for instance. Demarcation exercise is the cutting down, using layman language, of an area into manageable segments. And that is why we have a pair of census officers, enumerators, manning a geographically carved area, which should be able to be covered between 3 and 5 days. And because within those those periods of census, there is restriction of movement, so that for the avoidance of double counting and overlapping, as we used to say. So when we do the demarcation, which will take almost 3-4 years, then there will be assurance that the entire geographical area called the country would have been whittled down into sizable areas that will be managed by these enumerators. And within the period of 3-5 days, they should be able to finish the head count and then also settle down to another process, which is after the census that I earlier made mention of.
You spoke a short while ago about the need for government to know the productive age.
Yes.
What fears does this portend when we are unable to do a proper census?
Well,
like 19 years now we have not done.
Yes. You will discover that lack of periodic census has dealt a great blow to this nation. Why is it that we have about almost over 80% of young school leavers roaming the streets? Why is it that people go to the university, for instance, to be professionals, but because there are underlying problems in their field of operation due to enabling environment that the government has not created as a result of lack of adequate figures to work with. Now, a person who studies aeronautic engineering, for instance, coming down now to become a sales rep, it is a misnomer.
Yeah, but it happens these days.
It happens just because there is lack of planning. Mm-hmm. For instance, if government is planning very well through periodic census taking, government should be able to know that, oh, this is the number of people we require as aeronautic engineers. This is the number of people we require as medical doctors. This is the number of people we require as pharmacists. So all these things put together, we make for meaningful planning. But when universities are rolling out graduates without the ready-made jobs for them to engage in, and you are not, the devices that many graduates are on daily basis, you read of someone who graduated from one university engaging in kidnapping, engaging in one vice or the other, fraudulent activities. If they are meaningfully engaged through meaningful planning that government embarks upon, it will be very, very difficult for young people to think of veering into all these vices, veering into all these malpractices that has beclouded the sanity of our country. So not having periodic census has so many implications that time may not even allow us to exhaust.
Well, you also spoke of, or rather you mentioned, you didn't go into details, not having free and fair census.
Yes.
What do you mean in that aspect?
Yeah.
And after telling us what you mean, what implications?
Yes. Well, there are two issues that bother us when we get to the field. Politicization of census exercise is a great bane to having accurate census in Nigeria. For instance, when we move to the field, people believe that, especially the politicians, believe that the more they are, the more resources or allocations they will have. And so there is the tendency to want to inflate figures. There is the tendency to want to engage in sharp practices. But I can tell you categorically that the digitalization of census, which I was a part of, will no longer give room for that malfeasance, because there is geo-referencing. When someone is enumerated, you are enumerated at a specific place, and something in the atmosphere is also taking picture of that. And the issue of fingerprinting, which was just taken to be a mere routine in the past. It's no longer so. If you say you are counted at this location and you migrate to another location, at the time of meddling with the figures or treating the figures, not meddling, treating with the figures, you will discover that because every fingerprint is unique to an individual. So a replication of fingerprint will be detected through the technical means that has been put in place. So and if only government can be magnanimous enough and be fair to this country to allow census to hold, honestly, we will be near perfect to the reality at the moment if census is allowed to take place now. Because a lot of innovations have come in that will mitigate sharp practices and the evils that go into the manual censuses of the past.
I know you are no longer in office, but you are the professionals in it. To what extent would the Nigerian political elite, how much can you assure them that there is no need for sharp practices and things like that? Because as you have just mentioned, they always see the opportunity of something like a census to inflate the figures.
Yes. Well, before I answer your question, another dimension to it is that some people believe that the more they are, the more they will be pursued for taxation. Okay, that also brings some people to dislike census, and so they run away from it. Okay, but to put the question you have just mentioned, the
politicization. How much of efforts have you?
Yes,
professionals?
There is education. We incorporate education into the exercise. Even long before we carry out physical census, we would have enlightened the populace about the futility of any effort that is geared towards manipulating figures or frustrating the normal procedures that have been put in place. So, incidentally, they are also part of it because we don't act in isolation. Politicians are also carried along. They are part of the system. So, in fact, a lot of them, before I left office, especially during the demarcation exercise, when they saw the painstakingness that has been innovatively enshrined in the process, they feel there is no need to engage in sharp practices any longer.
Aside money, what does it take to do census? Because when the new administration, which is getting older now, came and said money. The money NPC had brought was so mongoose. Aside money, what does it take to do census that we are so frightened about?
Well, the political will. Apart from money, the political will. Then the security. You know, for instance, by the grace of God, I escaped by the whiskers when I engaged in demarcation exercise in Kagara, in Niger State. If you heard then that bandits raided Kagara's palace in Niger State, I would have been a victim. We left the place just few hours before the bandits raided that. So, security-wise, everything actually boils down to money. Because when we are talking of purchasing equipment, paying emoluments and allowances, money is very, very important. And but I think the political will to carry out census is very important. government should realize this. If the UN, for instance, and the developed countries are assured that we really mean business, and the aspect of shadiness has been seen to be removed, they will come to. No nation can single-handedly finance a census exercise. Even US cannot do it. And that is why any census exercise taking place in any country has the inputs of the multinationals, the industrial world, and developed countries, and the corporate organizations. So I don't think government should exercise any consternation as far as money is concerned, because the political will and the assurance that we give to the outside world that we are ready is what is necessary.
There is also the Nigerian factor.
Yeah.
The Nigerian factor in the sense that we are a very kind of people who are ethnicity oriented.
Yeah.
If you bring it since 1963,
and we are also religious.
Yes, since 63, they will tell you this place is larger than that, that place is smaller than that. What appeal can a professional like you make to the political will?
There is always a misconception about that aspect of census component. For instance, those of us who went to the north to operate during the pre-census activities before they were shelved, we saw that actually rate of procreation in certain part of the country is more than what obtains in some other areas. For instance, me, as a retired officer, I worked for 35 years by the grace of God. I gave birth to only 4 children, and I felt I should be able to cater for 4 children. But my counterparts in the north married 3-4 wives. They gave birth to multiples of children. Okay? So there is always that gap there. But honestly, the migration has also evened out that fear. Because if you look at Osogbo, for instance, where this program is taking place, you will discover that almost half of the population in Osogbo are foreigners. They are non-indigenous. Especially influx of people from the north and from the east. People are complaining that the Igbos have bought almost half of Osogbo. They are bringing in their people. Hausas, Fulanis are also bringing in the Dito Udomas and the rest of them. So they are bringing, when the economic indices that are peculiar to an area can no longer sustain that population, they will of necessity migrate. So you see that unlike in the olden days, when people in the north did not see any light in relocating to another area, you see them moving. We have influx of them now into the south. So there should be, and the good thing about census is that census is situation specific. The people that are counted in Osun will be treated as residents of Osun, although they will have their own peculiarities of where did you come from, where were you born, you are a native of where, but all those things, they are minor. What government is interested in is how many people are within a particular geographical location.
Last question before we go. Look at it. You are no longer in the system. 2 years ago, a little over 2 years, there were preparations.
Yes.
Can the census hold sooner than later? And the way I want you to project into it. You have told us all the necessities of it.
Yes.
Do we have the time to? Very briefly.
Well, I will say census will still hold.
How soon?
Because we have advanced in the pre-census activities. I think if government is serious about it, what we need to do is just updating. For instance, in about 3 years ago, was it? About 2 years ago, when pre-census activities came to a hold, when at the tail end of Buhari's administration, God rest his soul, we were very, very active. But immediately he said he was no longer, and we have even finalized everything. We have perfected everything. The last stage of training was what was left before he made that statement. If he had not made that statement, Census would have heard flawlessly. But because he made that statement, so what I'm saying in essence is that Census can hold, because we have the archival system of the commission is now very perfect. Where we stopped then is where the only aspect is that of training, because a lot of people have changed location.
Okay.
So there will be retraining of personnel.
Thank you very much. I have been talking to and discussing with the retired director, state director, National Population Commission here in Osun State, the Reverend Benga Osunbong. I want to thank you for the opportunity of the confidence you have that we can still hold, because some of us are losing faith in the fact that census may never come until well after 2027. But then we live to see. I thank you very much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
To the viewers at home, this is a convenient spot to draw anchor. I thank you very much. This is a fresh presentation. We see you another week. I am Adit. Good afternoon to you all.